Hey y'all, I got started a couple minutes late today, but I had an idea to talk about bail jumping uh, and what does it mean, and how does it work? Once your bail has been set, uh, you can pay the full amount to the county. So if your bail is $10,000 and you have $10,000, you can go and pay that to the county and you'll be released. Upon the final resolution of your case, your money will be refunded to you minus an administrative fee, uh, which is less than $100. It's not a big amount. If you don't have the money to make a cash bail, you can go to a bonding company or a bondsman, and they'll typically charge you 10%. So if it was a $10,000 bond and you went to a bonding company, they're going to charge you $1,000. And they pledge that $10,000 to the county for you. And so they don't actually pay the county the $10,000, but they pledge it. And so that gives them skin in the game, in that if you decide to later jump bail, not only will you have a warrant for your arrest coming out of the court where your case was, but the bonding company is going to be looking for you too, because they don't want to have to actually pay the county that $10,000 or the full amount of whatever your bail was. And they have a time period wherein they can get that done without having to pay the county. And so they'll be out looking for you, as well as having a warrant for your arrest. And if you find yourself in a position where you have decided to jump bail, what you'll find is that when they ultimately capture you, you can be charged with an additional offense of bail jumping. So if it's a misdemeanor, you're going to be charged with another misdemeanor. If it's a felony, you're going to be charged with felony bail jumping, which is third degree, and it's 2 to 10 years. And then, if the state is particularly offended by the fact that you jump bail, they could stack that sentence on top of whatever sentence you might get on the first charge that you were originally out on bail on. So, bail jumping is typically just a real bad idea. And believe it or not, it does happen with, some degree of frequency. We had a client recently, or still have a client, that recently was out of state on a ankle monitor, and he cut that monitor off and just took off. We don't know where he is. We can't get a hold of him. When we call his family, they claim they don't know where he is either. I tried to withdraw from that case after he fled, and thus far the judge has denied my motion to withdraw on that case. I say it's because the judge is punishing me for my client's failure to appear, but the judge says that's not what he's doing. So I don't know when or if that guy will be caught, and we'll have to deal with it at some point in the future. Another thing that people don't take into consideration is, even if you're not charged with bail jumping, which is an additional charge, the prosecution and the court are now upset with you. And so the more time that you stay on the run, so to speak, it's likely that any plea negotiations that were happening in your case earlier are now going to be out the window, and they're going to want a much harsher punishment for the original crime. And having been here for 25 years, we've had some interesting times when people have skipped bail. One of them that's memorable was on, well, this happened twice actually in a short period of time. The person failed to appear the day we were supposed to start their jury trial. So, you know, if I'm guessing, they were scared of what may happen in court and just decided to take their chances. Of the two that I'm thinking of, one was caught within a month or two. He actually committed a crime in another county and was arrested, and so then he was discovered in the jail there. And when he was done with his case there, he was shipped back here, and we actually ended up working his case out for a plea agreement. They did not file an additional charge on him. Of course, they did threaten to if he decided to go to trial on the original case, but we ultimately worked that one out. Another client who didn't show up for his trial, it's been a couple of years now, maybe, well, it was pre-COVID, so it was years, and we've never heard from him. If he's been arrested somewhere, I don't know. On that case, after a significant amount of time, we're ultimately able to withdraw from his case, and so I haven't looked it up in a while, but if he was later found, I never found out about him. I guess it was last year, Jessica was in trial. They had actually already selected a jury and started the trial, and our client just didn't show up for the next day of trial, and he's been on the run now for, I don't believe he's been quite a year yet. But the bottom line is that even if they don't charge you with an additional crime for bail jumping, whatever situation you were in earlier on your case has now likely gotten worse. In the event that, because of the passage of time, the original criminal case can no longer proceed forward due to lack of witness or whatever, because of the passage of time, then you can probably rest assured that the state will indeed charge the bail jumping and go forward with that case. But you know, it's so easy many times for people to avoid any of these problems. It is frequent that we have clients not appear for court. However, they call us and tell us why. So, you know, life happens, right? It happened a lot during COVID. People would test positive, and so they would call us and say, I'm positive, what do I do? And we would say, well, email us your positive results or whatever the situation is. Sometimes people end up in the hospital, emergency room, whatever. And so we just say, well, email us proof. And then we go to court and we show the judge what our clients have presented us. And many times the court is understanding and will give us a then future date. So sometimes people can't make it for reasons of life, and rather than contact us and try and see what we can do, they just say, well, I missed, I'm going to have a warrant, I'm gone, I'm going to hide till they catch me. And that's obviously not the best thing to do. If you have found yourself in a position where you missed your court date, the best thing you can do is immediately contact your lawyer, see what the lawyer says, and then do what your lawyer tells you to do. I have a small window of time, 2, maybe 3 days, where if you didn't show up and the court issued a warrant with a good reason, I can get the court to recall that warrant. Now, if that time has passed, but it's still in recent history, you can still come in You may have to go back to jail and post a new bond, but at least if you do that, you won't have damaged your case or whatever the possible resolution of your case might have been. So I guess the whole point of this topic today is if you miss court for a legitimate reason, make sure and contact your lawyer. He or she will contact the court and see what can be done. Obviously, there are situations where people make conscious decisions to run for fear of punishment or fear of whatever. And in that case, there's not much that can be done until ultimately they are captured by law enforcement, be it here or in another state, country, whatever. So far that I know of, I've not had anyone flee the country. The other thing you got to understand is that with today's technology, when law enforcement gets, and they don't, they're not going to spend this type of energy and resources on most misdemeanors. They'll just wait for you to get picked up. But like on a felony, especially a serious felony, when law enforcement goes looking for you, these days it's not hard to do. If you're on social media, they can track your social media. They can get a warrant, find out where the IP address that you're using to post on social media. If you're working under your name and social security, there's just so many ways these days to find people with the technology that we have that it's just not a good idea to run. And back to the original point, the best thing to do if you somehow miss court, get in touch with your attorney immediately so that it cannot turn into a bail jumping and possibly not even get a warrant out of the deal. Because the courts understand that life happens and sometimes people don't show, for a multitude of reasons. Another way or another situation that has happened to us is that our client ends up getting arrested for a different crime in a different county and is in jail. And so when that is the situation, you didn't fail to appear in court voluntarily, it's because you were incarcerated. So in that situation, you would never be charged with bail jumping, and you more than likely would not get a warrant. But in that case, your bonding company can surrender your bond since you're in another county jail, and that just means that once you're done in that county, you'll be brought here to Galveston, but you will not have a warrant. You'll just have that case. And so if you did all that, and then once you came out, you could bond out again, because again, you didn't fail to appear voluntarily. It was due to your incarceration in another county. So I didn't get many questions this week, but I just thought that was a topic that comes up frequently, because we get people that call and say, hey, I have a warrant, what do I do? And so this is kind of just one I decided to do today. So anyway, I hope you all have a great rest of your week. This coming weekend is the Jeep weekend on Bolivar. So next week I will probably just do, if we had a large number of arrests over the Jeep weekend, I'll do those numbers next Tuesday. So y'all have a great rest of your week, and I'll see y'all next week.